We just learned that GDP growth in the second quarter of 2026 slowed to just 1.5%, a number that Donald Trump previously has said is terrible. Trump promised 4, 5, 6% GDP growth. We got 1.5. And in the middle of this economic disaster for Trump, remember that Donald Trump spent more than a year blaming the former Fed chair, Jerome Powell, for everything that's wrong with the economy. Remember, interest rates were too high. Powell is incompetent. He needs to reduce them. Mortgages are expensive because Powell hates Trump. The Federal Reserve should be cutting rates immediately and it would be great. Well, Donald Trump finally replaced Powell with his own handpicked chairman, Kevin Warsh. And Warsh just did exactly what Powell has been doing. The Federal Reserve has decided to keep its federal funds interest rate unchanged. He didn't lower it. Now, Warsh did do everything possible to make this more emotionally comfortable for Trump. He said the economy's good, other than all the inflation. He celebrated supposed business investment. He said inflation is a bigger problem. It's Biden's fault. So Warsh has given Trump the propaganda he wanted. But the thing that Trump really desired, lower federal funds rate, Warsh isn't doing. Here's Warsh justifying the decision by saying we have 5+ years of high inflation. In other words, blame it on Biden.
As before, the policy statement conveys just the facts. It's steering clear of forecasting, a choice we consider especially prudent at these uncertain times. Uncertainty, however, does not mean a lack of clarity. For some households, businesses, and market professionals, 5 years of high inflation have left a mistaken impression that's hard to shake, that the Fed's implicit inflation target was somehow above 2%. Let me reiterate, there is no soft inflation target. There is no soft implicit target, not on this committee's watch. There's only a target, and it's 2%. Not one of my FOMC colleagues is under any illusion. We have begun a new chapter, and we understand that the 5+ years of inflation above target cannot be cured in 9 weeks or by a single month of modest price decreases.
There it is. And he repeated variations of this phrase throughout the press conference. Now, of course, 5 years takes us back into the Biden administration, and that's deliberate. Now, I don't think that Warsh is wrong here. The real story here is Trump went through all this trouble to have someone in there who's just going to lower interest rates every quarter, and Warsh isn't doing it. To a degree, Warsh is right. If you just look at the target inflation rate of 2 to 3%, we have been above that for a bunch of the last 5 years for different reasons. Under Biden, it was because of the COVID pandemic. Under Trump, it's been because of Trump's optional tariffs and also the war with Iran. But the takeaway here is that Trump has been president now for a year and a half. Inflation is staying elevated, and it's staying elevated because of tariffs, because of energy prices, because of the war with Iran. You can't attribute every price increase to Joe Biden until the sun burns out. And Warsh is holding steady on rates. I mean, good for him. But he's trying to soften it with propaganda. And here he goes, oh, the economy is so resilient. Despite everything that's going on, we've got growth, but inflation is elevated.
The economy is showing impressive resilience. Even with recent shocks, the trends are positive and reveal solid growth. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little. Inflation remains elevated relative to the committee's 2% goal. The committee remains resolute. You've heard this before.
The only problem is economic growth isn't so good because we just got hit with a 1.5% GDP growth number. And all of this is meant to placate Donald Trump. And the three words that really explain the decision are inflation remains elevated. Trump said inflation has been solved. And Warsh goes, we're not going to lower rates like you want because inflation has not been solved. He does throw in this stuff about the business investment of this economy is just so impressive.
The most striking feature of the economy is the strong growth of business investment. The surge in high-tech CapEx has been remarkable, but that does not necessarily make the Fed's role any easier.
No. He kind of did the full Mar-a-Lago tasting menu. We've got strong growth. We've got impressive resilience. Business investment is great. And a lot of the inflation is kind of Biden's fault. And here's the dessert: no rate cut. And in fact, 3 members of the committee dissented because they wanted to raise rates by a quarter point. Can you imagine the bender Trump would go on if, after replacing Jerome Powell because he wants rates lower, there were to be a decision to raise rates? Now, this is why it matters. You've got a board of Fed governors. It's not only Kevin Warsh who decides. But the debate inside the Reserve isn't, do we just hold steady or lower? It's, do we hold steady, do we lower, or do we raise? And there were people on the board of Fed governors who were saying, actually, we should raise. This destroys Trump's story about Jerome Powell. Trump said Powell's belief that rates shouldn't be lowered was only out of an interest of sabotaging Donald Trump. And Trump goes, we're going to get rid of this too late, stupid Jerome Powell and put in someone brilliant. And this guy is going to fix it all. And then he comes in and they go, yeah, we're not lowering rates right now. Now, there's debate over what is the right decision. It's probably been the right decision not to lower rates, although that may change 6 months from now. We have to see. But think about going through a year and a half of this stuff to finally get the guy you want. And then all of a sudden he goes, yeah, the economic circumstances are not ones in which we should be lowering rates. Totally sending Trump for a bender once again. And if there's anything to criticize, I mean, it's probably the right decision. If there's anything to criticize Warsh for, it's that he has bent the knee to doing the propaganda. It's all so awesome, but inflation, we're not going to lower rates. Thanks for watching. Check out another one of our videos and make sure to subscribe so YouTube keeps our content in your feed. And if you prefer audio, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple.